Time for Sport. Caravan joins us to start with the Premier League. Cardiff facing Arsenal in London for what should have been Emiliano Sala's first game with his new team.
Yes, it was the first game for Cardiff since that plane carrying Emiliano Sala disappeared over the channel 8 days ago. Players, of course, staff and fans all paying an emotional tribute to the missing strikers. There were the captains, Mesut Ozil and Sol Bamba, laying flowers in the center circle ahead of kickoff, while Cardiff fans also held up yellow banners, Argentina flags, and written tributes for the 28-year-old, including a banner that read, quote, "We never saw you play and we never saw you score, but Emiliano, our beautiful bluebird, we will love you forevermore." A lot of heartfelt tributes there. The game itself turning in favor of the host Arsenal. Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang scoring a penalty kick after the 1 hour mark. Alexandre Lacazette doubling Arsenal's lead in the 83rd minute. Cardiff did cut their deficit in the final minutes of that game, but the Gunners held on to win it 2-1. With this win, Arsenal are in 5th place, 2 points clear of Manchester United, who came back from a 2-goal deficit to clinch a 2-all draw against Burnley. Everton beat Huddersfield 1-0, while Manchester City were stunned by Newcastle 2-1, a loss that could cost them dearly in the race for the title. They're currently 4 points behind leaders Liverpool, who will be hosting Leicester this Wednesday. Now in the French League Cup, the Ligue 1's bottom sides were facing off in the first semi-final. Bottom side Guingamp were hosting another struggling side, 19th placed Monaco. At first, it seemed that for Leonardo Jardim's return as Monaco coach, his team would give him a victory. After just 25 minutes, Monaco, despite being one man down, were leading 2-0 thanks to Rony Lopez and Alexander Golovin. But Guingamp fought back in the second half with back-to-back goals by Alexandre Mendy and Marcus Thuram. The game would then be decided in a penalty, a shootout, with Guingamp winning 5-4 to reach the final of the French League Cup for the very first time of their history. They'll be either playing Strasbourg or Bordeaux in the final, which will be held on March 30th in Lille. Meanwhile, in the Asian Cup, Qatar booked their spot in the final after thrashing host the United Arab Emirates. The blockade derby, as it's been dubbed, was politically charged between the two bitter Gulf rivals. Tensions high from the very start when the crowd booed the Qatar national anthem. Qatar replied on the pitch with the first goal in the 22nd minute through Boualem Khouri. 15 minutes later, Almoez Ali scored his 8th goal of the tournament to double Qatar's lead. By the 80th minute, the Qataris were up by 3, while UAE fans were throwing bottles and shoes at the players on the pitch. UAE's Ismail Ahmed was then sent off in stoppage time for elbowing an opponent in the face before Qatar's substitute Hamid Ismail closed out the 4-0 victory. Qatar will be facing Japan in the final this Friday. Now, just weeks after his emotional exit at the Australian Open, Andy Murray has undergone a hip surgery. Shortly after the procedure, he posted this message to his fans on social media saying, "Feeling a bit battered and bruised just now, but hopefully that will be the end of my hip pain. I now have a metal hip." The main goal, of course, for the Brit was to put an end to the years of pain, which forced him to undergo a previous surgery about a year ago. But this could also be the start of one final comeback for Murray, the Brit, who announced that the Australian Open could have been his last tournament. But he also made it clear that his dream was to retire at Wimbledon this summer. Murray, who will now have to go through weeks of rehab before he can start playing again and possibly make it back to the All England club. Mixed martial art fighters Conor McGregor and Khabib Nurmagomedov have been suspended and fined following a post-fight brawl back in October. McGregor received a 6-month suspension and a $50,000 fine, while the Russian fighter got 9 months and $500,000 in fines. Just after the fight, Nurmagomedov climbed the cage and dove into the crowd, triggering a brawl between his camp and McGregor's, while the Irish fighter also battled some members of the Russian team inside the octagon. Both suspensions have been backdated to October, and Nurmagomedov could see his reduced to 6 months if he takes part in an anti-bullying campaign, which will be taking place in Nevada. We finish with a bit of sailing. At 73 years old, Jean-Luc Vandenesse has won the Golden Globe race, the solo round-the-world race, without any assistance or any modern equipment. The skipper crossing the finish line this morning at Les Sables d'Olonne after 212 days alone at sea. He now holds the record for being the oldest person to complete a solo round the world. For his sixth and final round-the-world race, Vandenesse went back to basics, sailing with the same equipment they had back in the first edition of the race 50 years ago.
It's a way of going back to the roots of sailing, the way we sailed 50 years ago. That's what got me going.
A solo round-the-world race is pretty impressive in itself, but when you think that he did it without GPS, without satellite, none of these modern things, it's even more impressive, I think.
A compass, a sextant,
yes.
There's
maps,
the horizon.
Paper maps.
Go, plot it, mark it. It's phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. And to do that all by yourself.
Yeah.
Crazy stuff. I can barely make it out of the studio. Ketevan, thank you very much indeed. Great to see you. Ketevan Georges with, as ever, all the sport. Time for Focus.